with the priest to stand at the altar and to participate in the sacrifice, where Christ's suffering, his death, and his resurrection are made present for us, not represented, not done anew as if there was some different sacrifice, but the same saving reality made present on the altar. And for the Christian who is certainly encouraged to go to daily Mass, as the early Christians did, to be present at the Sunday Eucharist. So much so that we have Pope Blessed John Paul II of happy memory writing a letter, Dies Domini, the name of the letter, on the day of the Lord, Dies Domini, encouraging, not just encouraging, but laying out, delineating the meaning of Sunday as not just another day in a, quote, weekend, but rather the very centrality of the Christian, the very heart of the Christian life, and that it is on Sunday that we relive the resurrection, the new creation, and already take a little break to taste the fruits of Christ's suffering, death, and resurrection, to be present at that mystery so that it might imbue our lives for the work week lying ahead until we rest in that eternal Sabbath in heaven. The Sunday Eucharist is an obligation that we all have to attend by a grave obligation, and we sin gravely against the third commandment, against the precept of the church, by not attending Mass on Sunday. It's something to be confessed before taking Holy Communion if through our own fault we miss our Sunday Mass. There are some reasons which could prevent us from being present. For example, the care of an infant, the Catechism mentions, or because of a serious illness, then we would be dispensed. We're not obliged to do that which we're unable to do, or that which would be against natural law to fulfill. Or our pastor, our canonical pastor of a parish, could for some good reason dispense a parishioner or parishioners from their obligation for a Sunday Mass. And then that person would not incur guilt, sin, by missing a Sunday Mass. All things being equal, every Sunday, every Catholic that has received First Communion should be at Mass to share with the other brothers and sisters in the Church in that divine mystery. Our Holy Father in his letter, Dies Domini, spoke about the early Christian martyrs in Africa, in Abytina, where you had young martyrs, young teenagers who were caught on their way to Mass when it was illegal, who were told, if you go to church, if you go to Mass, we'll kill you. And they responded, well, you just soon kill us because we can't live without the Lord's Supper. We need the food or the Eucharist to live. So just soon take our natural lives, because without our supernatural life, it's not worth living. And they died, and they're martyrs today. We had others that said, you go to church, it's against the law. And they said, well, it's against our law not to go. It's our law that we go to Mass every Sunday. And they went, and many of them died. It's very easy and convenient for us to go to Mass today, and yet we too easily absent ourselves from the sacred assembly. So this is a third commandment, is our obligation before God to be in attendance at the sacrifice of the Mass. Also, the Catechism brings out with regard to the third commandment is this obligation that we have to rest. This obligation that we have to absent ourselves or to omit unnecessary work. And if I'm an employer, I have an obligation for my employees not to be open on Sunday if it's not necessary, so that I don't put my employees in a situation where they can't observe the Sunday. Also with regard to recreation, that recreation is a valid and a good thing in moderation on a Sunday, for example. But these soccer tournaments that we're part of, and families and going here, going there, and tournaments on Sundays where this is the grand preoccupation, is something against the third commandment. And in many cases, people absent themselves from Mass, another grave obligation, because of these tournaments. Also, we have to look at solidarity with one's neighbor. That is very important. Our Holy Father mentions, and the Catechism reiterates, that Sunday is a day of solidarity with my brothers and sisters. And so labor, for example, for someone else, a widow whose roof was taken off during the hurricane, and on Sundays, some people from the parish, the church, go over and help to redo the roof on Sunday, is legitimate. And in fact, it is something that fulfills the positive prescription of keeping the Lord's Day holy. So the holiness is solidarity with my brothers, and sisters. It's a holiness of contemplation, of time for greater prayer with the family and listen to the Word of God. It's a day where I go and I stand at the foot of the cross with Mary and John to participate in the Paschal mystery. And it's a day in which I'm able to exercise charity for my neighbor and for those in need. And so to avoid unnecessary work, if at all possible, on Sunday. Next time we'll move into the fourth commandment.
Thank you, Father Champagne. Coming up next, in a conversation with Bishop Michael Gerald, Monsignor Richard Green interviews Bishop Gerald about the marriage anniversary celebration.
Good morning. With me is Bishop Michael Gerald of the Diocese of Lafayette for another conversation. Thank you for joining us. Bishop, thanks for being with us.
You're quite welcome.
Every year, our Diocesan Office of Marriage and Family Life, I should say, sponsors a Mass recognizing couples celebrating wedding anniversaries. That Mass was held last Sunday at St. Mary Church in Lafayette. So Bishop, the first question is, who is invited to that Mass?
Well, actually, we have two Masses each year. Last week, we invited couples who are celebrating their 25th or 40th wedding anniversary during this calendar year. Last February, we invited those celebrating 50 or their 60th wedding anniversary or above 60. And we divide them up because there's too many for one ceremony. We don't have churches that can hold all of the people. This activity has become very, very popular with people celebrating anniversaries. The churches we use are always filled with the honorees and their families because the families enjoy being there. Mm-hmm. And we have to use large churches, so it's a very popular event.
Bishop, how are the invitations made?
Basically through the parishes, announcement in the bulletins or from the pulpit. Pastors inform couples about the special Masses and tell them that there will be an opportunity to take a picture with me, and that's always a lot of fun, and people seem to enjoy it. And we give each couple a special certificate, which many of them appreciate greatly. And then I noticed that they spend a lot of time taking family pictures, because once you get everybody all dressed up, you might as well get some good pictures. So many of them take that opportunity for family pictures.
Bishop, this activity must be a lot of work for the Office of Marriage and Family Life.
Yes, it is. Father Jude Halfin is the director. He and his staff work very hard on this, but they seem to think that it's worthwhile.
What are the reasons for that?
A couple of reasons. First of all, I think we all realize that it is important to promote the sacrament of marriage. Many in society today do not think that marriage is very important. Many of our parishes have seen the number of weddings decrease. I think many of our Catholic people do not really appreciate or understand the sacramental aspect, that this is an act of religion. And I think they really don't understand it. And that's a great challenge for us. So I think having this special Mass calls people's attention to the sacrament of marriage. Second thing, it's a great recognition and support for the couples themselves. They seem to appreciate this nod of recognition, that all of the work and sacrifice that they have put into marriage and to raising a family is appreciated by the larger society and by the church. So if we can do that little bit for them, I think we should, and I think they appreciate it. Our society needs positive examples, and I think when you have people who have celebrated 60 years of marriage, that's meaningful, and it's something very positive. So often we're presented with the negatives and the challenges and the difficulties and some of the cynicism, but this is something positive, and I think we ought to try to publicize it.
Yeah. Bishop, you said a few moments ago that many Catholics, couples, do not appreciate the sacrament of marriage. Could you explain what you mean by that a little bit more?
Well, I think that many of the young people don't see it as important. We live in an individualistic age, and it affects all of us. I'm not picking on the young people. It affects all of us. And I think in this country, we have a divorce mentality, and that's very unfortunate. But again, it affects all of us to some degree. But we have to grasp the idea that marriage is a social institution, more than just for the two individuals involved. It's not just about the couple, but it's also important for the families of the two members of the couple and for society as well. Marriage is the stable unit, marriage and the family. The family is a stable unit of society, and marriage is important in forming stable families. So this is why one of the reasons why we try to emphasize the importance of marriage, and helping couples to realize that they should really desire to have God and the church involved in their marriage. I think there are just so many misunderstandings about marriage that we always strive to be teaching what the church sees in marriage.
Like what?
Well, for example, one misunderstanding is that many people think that the church requires a big, expensive wedding. Now, it's true that many weddings are big and are expensive, but that's not a church requirement. The bare minimum the church requires is the couple and two witnesses and the priest there to witness the vows. And beyond that, it's couple's choice. So this is not something, but many people believe that the church requires a mass and so forth.
Okay.
Not so.
But the church does have some requirements.
Yes, especially in the area of marriage preparation. Marriage preparation courses have been very helpful, and I think we ought to continue to insist on that. Since the marriage preparation program focuses on communication between the couple, and that needs to be taught. It's a skill that needs to be learned. And we try very hard to do that in our marriage preparation courses.
Bishop, getting back to the marriage anniversary celebration, how does it help young people planning marriage?
Well, I think that they see that successful marriage is possible, that commitment and fidelity really means something. It's an example.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bishop. I might add that married couples and couples planning to marriage can get a lot of information on the website www.foryourmarriage, one word, F-O-R-Y-O-U-R, marriage.org. Check it out. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, Bishop Gerald and Monsignor Green. If you have any questions for Bishop Gerald to answer in the segment, A Conversation with Bishop Michael Gerald, please write to Bishop Michael Gerald, 1408 Carmel Drive, Lafayette, Louisiana, 70501. Bishop Gerald is always eager to share the Catholic faith with everyone. We hope this program has allowed you to grow closer to God and the Catholic faith. Join us next week for another conversation with Bishop Michael Gerald for What It Means to Be Catholic with Father Michael Champagne, and Trista Littell has an interview with Carol Menard about October as Respect Life Month. We hope you've enjoyed our program because it is produced for you. So please join us next week on this station as we tell the people about the Diocese of Lafayette and the good news of our Catholic faith.